Mark chapter 5, verse 27 says, she had heard about Jesus, so she came up behind him through the crowd and touched his robe. Have you ever been in a massive crowd? I'm talking about tons and tons of people. Maybe you've been to a concert. Maybe you've been to something where there are just tons of people crowded around. Growing up, when I was a teenager, our church would work the concession stands for University of Michigan. And we had the front stand at the main gate. When the gates would open up, people would rush in. He'd say, oh, concession stands. I've ran those too. That's awesome. Keep in mind that University of Michigan, over 100,000 people in attendance every single Saturday when Michigan plays there at the Big House in Ann Arbor. Tons and tons of people, literally over 100,000 people. Biggest game of the year, Michigan and Ohio. That team a little further to the southeast of the state of Michigan. And I remember one year in particular, as I was a teenager, we ran out of hot cocoa at the peak of halftime. That is not a great time to run out of hot cocoa on a cold November day as these two teams were playing. So the position that I was in the concession stand and knowing what I knew, I said, okay, well, here we go. So we loaded up our little carts with the hot cocoa coolers, and me and one of the smallest kids from our church, not sure why I picked him to go with me, we tried to make our way through the crowd. I'm talking, it is like chest to chest, shoulder to shoulder. We were trying to maneuver this cart through 100,000 people. It was tight, it was crazy, it was chaotic, and I think I lost little Brent probably at least 3 or 4 times. Like, he's still out there somewhere floating around in that crowd. I mean, I'm telling you, we were in the middle of some like huddles of people where I've got people wearing maize and blue on one side and in scarlet and gray on the other, cussing each other out. And I'm just in the middle going, hey, if y'all want some dang hot cocoa, just let me through and just stop. It was crazy. You may remember not that long ago that Indianapolis hosted the Super Bowl. Y'all remember that? Did anyone go downtown during that just to see the crowds? Yeah, I did. Being a younger football fan at the time, I went and got kicked out of the hotel where the Patriots were because I was trying to get an autograph and was able to get some New York Giants autographs. But it was a fun time just going down there, being around the crowd. I mean, I'll never forget, though, coming to one intersection that was close to the stadium and everyone's out there having a good time. And it was crazy. And trying to cross the street at that intersection, I mean, I am again like chest to chest, shoulder to shoulder, back to back, not by choice, with thousands of people. It was that, y'all ever been in that type of crazy crowd? It can be overwhelming. There was a massive crowd. This morning we're about to read a story from Scripture where a crowd of people are waiting for Jesus' arrival on a shoreline as he arrives by boat. People had heard of his miracles. Jesus' name and fame had spread at this point. They knew of his miracles. They knew of what he could do. They knew it was possible and Jesus would step in. And so now a crowd, like what I've been talking about, has met and formed at this shoreline as Jesus is approaching by boat. People didn't just, some people showed up just to see what Jesus could do, but other people showed up because they had a need in their life and needed Jesus to do something. So you have this energized crowd filled with anticipation, filled with desperation, filled with need on the shoreline, waiting for Jesus to get on shore and step out of the boat. Now, among these people with the need was a man named Jairus. He was a leader of the local synagogue, so either by prominence, potentially, good standing, or maybe by getting there really early, we see where he basically has the first recorded interaction with Jesus as he gets to that shoreline. So Jairus arrives, and Jesus arrives, and Jairus pleads with Jesus. He says that his daughter is very sick, and that if Jesus doesn't get to her, she's going to die. So he says, Jesus, please go with me to my house. Please go with me so you can lay hands upon my daughter. And Jesus, out of this entire crowd of people, agrees to go with Jairus. We're going to pick up the story right there in Mark chapter 5, verse 24. It says, Jesus went with him and all the people followed, crowding around him. A woman in the crowd had suffered for 12 years with constant bleeding. She had suffered a great deal from many doctors, and over the years, she had spent everything she had to pay them, but she had not gotten better. But she had gotten no better. In fact, she had gotten worse. Verse 27, she had heard about Jesus, So she came up behind him through the crowd and touched his robe. For she thought to herself, if I can just touch his robe, I will be healed. Someone shout out the word press. Come on, do it again. Someone shout out press. Come on, one more time. Press. Listen, I believe that the Lord would have me say today and deliver a word to you today that this is the year of the press. This is the year of the press. I had this word in my heart for last week, but when it looked like we had to go online, I told my wife, I said, this isn't an online word. This is an in-person word. This is an important word for us to get today. This is the year of the press. See, the story starts out focusing on Jesus and the crowd and Jairus, but someone steps in and changes the story completely for a moment. We see that Jesus is on his way to the home of Jairus, and suddenly this unnamed woman enters into the story. And we can see by her description, she is a woman of great need. The Bible says she is suffering, not that she has a condition simply, but that she is suffering with this condition of constant bleeding for 12 years. Now, not to get graphic this morning, but the constant believing of 12 years is to believe to be of the menstrual variety. So not only would this be torturous to her physically for 12 years, but in the time and culture in which she lived, this woman would have been deemed unclean by religious customs. Now, that might not sound like a big deal, but what that meant is that in that time, in that day, she would have been unmarriable. She would have been untouchable. She would have been an outcast in her culture, in her society, even potentially from her family because of her condition. In those days, in those times, she would have likely had to announce unclean if she were to go into town or enter into a populated area. Why? Because in those days, people believed that if you touched something or someone unclean, then you would become unclean. So as a religious courtesy to everybody, she'd have had to have said, unclean, basically saying, move the path around me so you don't touch me. That there's something so wrong with me that you must stay outside of my bubble, or something may be wrong with you too. This woman likely had nothing left. And this is the woman that the Bible says presses through the crowd to get to Jesus and to touch Jesus. Someone shout out press. Listen, this is the year of the press. And this is what this means. This is the year that you push past everything that stands between you and getting closer to Jesus. My question for us today, for anyone hearing these words, is will we do the hard things to see God move this year? I believe there's potential for us to see God move in a supernatural way in our lives this year. And this isn't just some New Year, January hogwash that every pastor is selling. That's not what I'm talking about. I really, really believe in the way God has been moving for the last 4 years in our church that we are reaching a moment that I believe we might see God move in some ways that we maybe haven't seen fully yet. I believe there's potential for miracles in this place. I believe there's potential for healing in this place. I believe there's potential for growth in people's lives in this place. I honest to God believe that every person that is a part of this church family, that is in this church, I fully believe beyond a shadow of a doubt that this could be the year that you are walking in the calling that God has for you. This is the year that you're serving in the place in the kingdom of God that He has for you to serve in. This is the year where depression is gone from your life. This is the year where addiction breaks from your life. This is the year where suicidal thoughts leave your mind and heart. I believe this is a year that could completely change things for us. If and only if we are willing to do the hard things. If we are unwilling to press into the presence of God, we will not experience those things. If we are not willing to do the hard things, then we are simply not going to see God move in that way, and it's not going to be His fault, it's going to be our fault. So the question is, will we press? This woman had to press through a lot. There was a crowd of people packed in around her. She had to press physically through that. Breaking the custom, breaking the laws, not shouting unclean. But there's a lot emotionally that she had to press through. 12 years is a long time to struggle. She had to press past her discouragement. Listen, there's some of y'all that things have happened in your life that you may be walking in a season of discouragement right now. Let me take that back. You're walking in a season that the enemy has tried to mark with discouragement right now in your life. She had to press through discouragement. She had to press past her doubt. Listen, I believe that doubt is something that we all probably experience and have to fight through to some level or some extent. You might sit here and think, well, I'm not very spiritual because I have my doubts. I have my doubts too. I have my moments where my faith wavers a little bit. I have moments where I say, Lord, I see it in Scripture, and I'm trying to believe it, but I'm not seeing it in my life right now. So where does all of this meet? You know what I come back to? The Scripture of the Father that looked at Jesus and said, Lord, I believe, but help my unbelief. She had to push past the doubt. She had to push past fear in her life. What if I touch Jesus and he looks at me and the crowd and the mob grabs me and says unclean and they stone me to death? That was a real possibility for her. She had to push past embarrassment. She had to push past her past. See, some of us have had things that have happened to us, and we're allowing the past to dictate our future. We're allowing past failures to dictate future successes with Jesus. We're allowing past closed doors to cause us to sit idle and not open future doors that maybe God has for us. Listen, she had to press past a lot. This is the year of the press. Desperation will cause you to do some crazy things, won't it? When you're desperate, you find a desperate person, they're willing to do about anything to get out of it. Her desperation led her to a place where she was willing to press past everything just to touch a part of Jesus' garment. Are you desperate? That desperate to see God move this year? Do you really want to see God move in that type of way? Do you really want to see your family healed in that type of way? Do you really want to see your loved ones saved in that type of way? Do you really want to encounter new revelations and depths of the Spirit in that kind of way? Because if you do, it will require a press this year. It'll require pursuing God. Jeremiah 29 verse 13. God says, if you look for me wholeheartedly, you will find me. I will be found by you, says the Lord. He says, I will end your captivity and restore your fortunes. These are promises and blessings he gives. I will gather you out of the nations where I sent you and will bring you home again to your own land. Listen, God is willing to play the most lopsided game of hide and seek with you that you could ever imagine. I remember one time when I was a youth pastor living with a family from the church a long, long time ago. They had all their grandkids over, and they're like, play hide and seek, play hide and seek. Listen, I've always been a larger individual, even just having wide shoulders. Like I don't fit into small spaces. But isn't the biggest compliment when you're playing hide and seek with a kid that like you go off to hide and they open up like the silverware drawer as if like even your foot would fit? You know what I'm talking about? You know what I mean? Like I'll play hide and seek with our girls, and I'll hear my wife say, "You think Daddy fits in there?" Like, and that's not a jab. Like, I'm just not gonna fit into the pantry where all of our cans are, honey. Like, it's just not gonna work. But I remember looking around, going, "I don't know where to hide with these guys. I don't know where to hide." And there was one of our camo hunting suits were hanging on a door, and so I just hurried and stepped in behind it. Like you could see me like from like the waist down. But I just stood up behind the jacket and just hid there. I stood there game after game of hide and seek, and those kids couldn't find me. Because it was too easy. I was hiding in plain sight. You know that God's just hiding in plain sight in your life? He's not trying to play tricks on you. He's not hiding in a place where you can't find him. Instead, he says, if you look for me, you will find me. God says, you're going to win the game of hide and seek because I ain't hiding. If you look for me, you will find me. But that requires actually seeking after God. That requires actually looking for God. That requires actually pressing. Jesus says in Matthew chapter 7, keep on asking and you will receive what you ask for. Keep on seeking and you will find. Keep on knocking and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, everyone who seeks finds, and to everyone who knocks the door will be open. There's two words that we see over and over and over through this. And those are the words, keep on. Keep on. You know what the opposite of quitting is? To keep on. Keep asking. Keep knocking. Keep seeking. Keep pursuing. Keep pressing. Keep getting as close to God as you can. Keep walking in the Spirit. Keep obeying what the Bible says. Keep living and trying to live holy. Keep yourself set apart for the things of God. You know that God does not get annoyed with your persistence? If anyone's had a younger sibling or younger niece or nephew or child of their own, you know there gets to be a place and a point in time, no matter how much you love them, that you're like, stop asking. Stop. Growing up, I like to tap on things. Makes sense that eventually I'd like play piano. I just always would tap on things. And my sister and my mom would be like, stop. Stop. Whereas God says, no, keep knocking. Keep it coming. Keep asking. Keep pressing. Keep pursuing. Keep persisting. See, God says keep going. When failure wants you to stop, he says keep going. When doubt wants you to stop, he says keep going. When temptation wants you to bend your knee and just give up trying to live in a holy lifestyle, he says, no, keep going, keep pressing, keep trying, keep moving. The only way you stop making progress in life is if you stand still and stop. But if you just make even a baby step every single day, as long as you're still going, you're still making progress. As long as your legs are still moving, you're still making progress. Keep going, keep pressing. We're going to continue in the story of the woman. Verse 28. It says, for she thought to herself, if I can just touch his robe, I will be healed. Pause there for just 1 second. It was funny, I was talking to our oldest last night, and she said, Daddy, what are you preaching on tomorrow? And I said, the woman with the issue of blood from the Bible. And she said, you mean, she sits up from her bed, she says, you mean the woman that pushed past everybody and grabbed onto Jesus? And she grabbed my sleeve as she did it. That grabbed onto Jesus? I said, yeah. And she said, and she didn't even grab onto Jesus. She just grabbed like his shirt because she said that would be enough. And I said, yes, she did, kiddo. Yes, she did. See, there's something interesting. If you look back in the book of Numbers, God gave instruction to the people to put these tassels or hems at the bottom of their garment. And what it represented was being obedient to God. It represented obedience to the commands of God. Let me just say real quick, if your life is out of whack in any way, any place, any circumstance, maybe for you today, the thing to do is reach out, grabbing the hem of his garment that spiritually represents obedience to the commands of God. Listen, when you obey the commands of God in your life, things will go better. I'm not going to say life's going to be 100% amazing and running through fields of flowers. But when you reach out and grab the hem of his garment, when you hold on to obedience to the Lord's commands, your life is going to be in alignment. Your life is going to come into place. For some of us, it's just a matter of walking in obedience. That's all it is. That's all it is. You don't need a conference. You don't need a self-help book. You don't need some 12-step program or plan. Nothing against any of those things. But for some of us, to fix the problems in our life, if we would just walk in obedience to God's word, these problems would suddenly stop being problems in our life. Verse 29, immediately the bleeding stopped, and she could feel in her body that she had been healed from her terrible condition. Verse 30, Jesus realized at once that healing power had gone out from him. So he turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who touched my robe?" His disciples said to him, "Look at this crowd pressing around you. How can you ask, 'Who touched me?'" But he kept on looking around to see who had done it. Then the frightened woman, trembling at the realization of what had happened to her, came and fell to her knees in front of him and told him what she had done. Oh, I mean, that crowd is probably waiting, going, "Oh, where's the biggest stone I can find? We're about to kill this woman for what she just did, touching Jesus and her unclean condition." That's the woman with the issue that touched Jesus. You know, people in the crowd are looking, going, "Hold on a second. That's the woman that has issues. I know that woman. She was shouting unclean in the town. And oh my God, she went through the crowd. She rubbed up against me. She touched Jesus. Can you believe this?" And he said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. Your suffering is over." How many of y'all that deal with mental health issues would love to hear Jesus say to you in 2024, "Your suffering is over"? How many of y'all that deal with physical issues that maybe you haven't even told anybody would love to hear Jesus just whisper to you this year, "Your suffering is over"? How many of y'all with addictions, repetitive bad habits, however you want to call them, would love to hear Jesus say to you this year, "Hey, your suffering is over"? It happens when we press. She pressed and she touched Jesus and received exactly what she needed. Listen, this is the year of the press. If you want God, you can have him. If you want to walk in your calling, you can. If you want God's direction for your family and your life, you can have it. God's not withholding any of these things from your life. You just got to press. So I want to end this quickly this morning on a few things I noticed in this story to answer the question, well, how do we press? We've been saying it's a year of the press, press into God. Great, awesome. How do we press? The first thing is stop looking for other means. Stop looking for other means. Stop looking for other things. Go back to verse 26. She had suffered a great deal from many doctors, and over the years she had spent everything she had to pay them, but she had gotten no better. In fact, she had only gotten worse. Pause it right there. This woman so far has tried everything she knows to do to fix her. She's spent all the money she's had. It's not been for a lack of trying. It's not been for a lack of attempt. Not for a lack of effort. She has done everything she knows to do in her own power, in her own money, in her own resource. She's went to the doctor. She's went to everybody that she can go to. But nothing has fixed it. Verse 27, she had heard about Jesus, so she came up behind him through the crowd and touched his robe. For she thought to herself, if I can just touch his robe, I will be healed. Listen, nothing worked until she tried Jesus. And you may say today, I tried Jesus, but nothing happened. And I would lovingly respond and say, but did you keep on trying Jesus? I told you all beginning of service, I'm not sick, but I'm fighting this weird chest infection thing from being sick like a month ago. So I went to the doctors this past week, which I don't enjoy doing by any means. And they gave me an antibiotic, which I don't enjoy taking by any means. And on the bottle and on the instruction paper they give you, I thought it was interesting. It said, even if you start feeling better. Literally, it spelled this out on the description paper. I thought, oh, this is interesting. It said, even if you start feeling better, finish all 7 days of the dosage of the medicine. I thought, how funny. I wondered how many people, myself included, would probably feel better day 3 or 4 and go, I can back off of that medicine then. I don't really need to take it anymore, right? Like, I'm feeling okay. I don't need to finish the whole run of the medicine. 7 days seems like overkill. I'm doing okay. But can I be honest that we do that sometimes spiritually with Jesus? We have a need, and we go to Jesus, and we're walking it out. And the tendency that we all can have sometimes is that as things improve and get better, we begin to think, oh, well, now, Lord, I can take this now. Thank you. I don't need to finish my full 7 days of the antibiotics. I'm feeling better day 3 or 4. I can kind of ease off of this right now. So you may say, I've tried Jesus, but did you keep on trying Jesus? Or can you look and go, you know what? No, I kind of drifted a little bit. I backed off. I didn't keep on trying Jesus. Maybe that's why you're not seeing the results right now. And I don't say that in condemnation. I say that in love, because I want you to see the results. I want you to see what it looks like for Jesus to step in and you not be bound by things anymore and not be oppressed by things anymore and not contemplate if you should even be alive anymore. I want us all to get to a place where we wake up and go, man, God has so much destiny and calling and purpose for my life today. I can't wait to see that unfold. And you may go, that sounds like a fake lie of a dream. What is that? I want to see us all get to that place. So we've got to stop looking for things other than Jesus to fix us. We've got to stop looking for things other than Jesus to fulfill us. We've simply just got to stop looking for things other than Jesus. It's not going to be at the bottom of a pill bottle. It's not going to be found at the bottom of any type of bottle. It's not going to be found at the tip of a needle. It's not going to be found waking up next to somebody. It's not going to be found gossiping and sharing somebody else's story that maybe makes you feel better about yours. Our fulfillment in life, our healing in life, our fix in life isn't going to be found in any other place but Jesus. When she stopped looking at every other place and going to every other place for 12 years, and when she really got a hold of Jesus, she was healed. Psalms 121 says, I look up to the mountains. Does my help come from there? My help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. If you want this to be the year of the press in your life, stop looking for other means and things and look to Jesus. Number 2, pursue Jesus. Pursue Jesus. Do the things in life that get you closer to Jesus. Do the things in life that get you closer to Jesus. This will be the most boring part of the sermon. Pray. Fast. Read the Bible. Spend time in worship. Why? Because worship gets us in the presence of God. Listen, I believe fully that I could get up here every single Sunday and preach. Pray. Read. Fast. Worship. Maybe throw give on there because that's linked to our heart. If we don't give to God, the Bible says that He doesn't really have our heart. I'm not going to spend time talking about giving this morning, but it's the foundational things. Do the things to pursue Jesus. Do the things to get closer to Jesus. If the activity you're about to partake in or the temptation in front of you is not one that gets you closer to Jesus, then maybe that's not the thing you're supposed to be doing. Well, my job doesn't get me closer to Jesus. I get that, but it also says that if you're not going to work, you don't get to eat. Where I realize there are some things in life, like we've got to go to work. We've got to, take Jesus on your job with you. Do the things in life that get you closer to Jesus, not drifting further away. Silly question, perhaps, but anybody ever been on a boat before? I'd say most of us. When that boat's not anchored and you're just sitting in that boat, sitting still, are you really actually sitting still? Y'all are shaking your head no. Why? What happens? You drift. You drift. Listen, that's what happens in our life when our relationship with Jesus, when we stop pursuing. What happens when you're driving home today and you take your foot off of the gas pedal? You're not hitting the brake. You're not stopping yourself. You're not putting it in reverse. You're not backsliding. Listen, that was a fun analogy to throw in right there. I don't care if you liked it or not. But if you simply just take your foot off of the gas, if you take the pressure off, what happens? You're going to, hey man, that's a good coast right there. Some of us have coasted in our relationship with Jesus for a long time, and then we start to hit a battle that goes uphill, and we stall out and wonder, God, where have you been? It's because we took our foot off the pedal. A boat that is sitting still, unanchored, is really drifting. It just feels so minute that we don't feel it. A car without the gas pedal pushed is going to coast, is going to stall. So again, I could preach. There are some Sundays, honestly, I don't even want to bring a sermon to the pulpit. And the reason is, I just want to ask, have we prayed every day this week? Have we read the Word in any capacity, a verse or the whole thing? I'm not talking about quantity. Have we read it all every day this week? Have we spent any time this week in worship? Have we maybe even fasted all? Have we gave to God at all? And if the answer to those 5 are no, then there's some Sundays that I feel so ornery that I want to say, we don't need a sermon today. We just need to go home and be a Christian. And again, I don't say that out of any type of anger at anybody. Like I don't say that with any type of frustration towards anybody. What I'm mad about is us not living in our full potential that God has for us. That's what frustrates me. If someone were to ask me, Pastor, what frustrates you about being the pastor of Victory Fellowship Church? Man, I'm not frustrated about the finances. I'm not frustrated about the amount of people that call this church home. I'm not frustrated about the building. What I'm frustrated about is us living every day less than the potential that God has for us. That's what frustrates me. That's where I get frustrated. When we're not walking and living in the fullness of what God has for us. We need to stop looking for other means and other things. And we need to pursue Jesus. Pursue Jesus. Some of y'all that's been in a long-term relationship may say to yourself or think to yourself, I don't know that they love me like they used to because they don't do things for me like they used to. They don't buy gifts for me. They don't say they love me. They don't kiss me. They don't. You may notice a tapering off of things that make you feel unpursued. We do that in our relationship with Jesus sometimes. So again, it's so simple that it's annoying. Pray, read, fast, worship, give. Do those 5 things, and I believe it'll be impossible to not see God do stuff in your life. I would throw in, be a part of godly community. So kudos for those of you that are here today. Part of godly community. Look at that. You're already doing it. And the final thing would be ignore the crowd. She had to stop looking at all the doctors. She had to stop going to all these other places that weren't fixing her. She had to make up her mind that she was going to go after Jesus. That she was going to pursue Jesus. That she was going to do everything she could to get to Jesus. And finally, once she got to that point, she had to ignore the crowd. We've already talked about it. This act could have been her death sentence for her. I got excited a second ago when I pictured the scene of all these people crowded around when Jesus keeps pressing and saying, who touched me? Who touched me? Who touched me? I felt healing power go from out of me. Who touched me? And then this frightened, trembling woman falls to her knees and says, I did. And I know I said it, but let your mind go there of these crowd of people. Probably some that look again and go, she's the unclean one. She touched Jesus? Oh my gosh, stone her, kill her. I say this to say, there will be people that want to know you by your reputation. There will be people that look and say, What business do you have calling yourself a Christian? I know what you really are. There will be people that will look and say, no, I know who you are. I know the things you've done. Listen, I'm just going to get really raw with it today. And I'm not going to look around the room, so I want anybody to think that I'm talking to them this morning. I know for some of y'all, I'm just going to close my eyes. I know for some of y'all, there will be people that look and go, no. Why are you trying to claim to be a Christian? You're the drug addict. You're the one that sleeps around. I know your reputation. I know the people that you know, and I know the things that you've done. She had to ignore the crowd. She had to ignore the crowd. Why? Because she was sick of being sick. She was sick of her suffering. So she didn't care what it cost her. I believe she probably made up her mind, I'd rather be dead than not have this thing work. She went in probably knowing, I'm either going to touch Jesus and be healed, or I'm going to touch Jesus and be stoned on the spot. But she was willing to lay it all on the line. Listen, we have to stop letting things in our life stop us from pressing. We've got to stop allowing the things around us to stop us from the press. Because there will be a day where you stand before Jesus, and it's just you and it's just him. And he'll look and say, well, why didn't you just trust me? Why didn't you just give me your all? Why didn't you just? And you may say, well, God, because this person and that person and this person and that person, but you look around and there's nobody there but you and Jesus. Listen, you can have as much of God as you want this year. You just got to press. You got to press. You may say, man, I pressed for January, February, March, or April. Now my May, June, and July are terrible. Get up and keep pressing. I think the reason a lot of people drop out of the race and drop out of faith is because it requires us to do that every single day. It requires us to press and believe and walk every single day. But I've lived the alternative of that. I've lived trying to do it every day on my own accord, and Zach, it doesn't work, man. Right? It doesn't work. The prize is worth the press. So I want us to pray together in this moment. Cody, go ahead and shut down the live stream. We love you guys. God bless all those that have been with us online today.